Trump is king. No, I'm just kidding, everybody. Don't take me seriously, but for real. Today, we're going to be talking about why Trump being painted as a king has more meaning symbolically than actual literally. Now, back in June, we saw the beginning of the No Kings protest, and it lasted all the way up until October 15th of 2025. Many people gathered in protest against his policies and his actions as he began to turn the gears of his second term presidency. Now, I want you guys to look at this image right here. If Trump is no king, then why put his face on the US dollar? Now, it's unclear if these draft images are actually going to go into production, but a lot of people are saying that this is very real and that the US Treasury is actually pushing this as part of the 250th anniversary of the United States. Now, this reminds me of a verse in the Bible when the Pharisees are trying to corner Jesus when asking him whether or not they should pay the imperial tax. And so Jesus asked for the coin. And you can find this story in Mark 12, and I'm reading verse 16 right down the middle. This is when Jesus asked for the coin. And he said to them, "Whose image and inscription is this?" They said to him, "Caesar's." And Jesus answered and said to them, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God." I went and found some pretty odd similarities between Julius Caesar and Donald Trump. Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's me from the future. I'm currently editing the video, and I realized that I forgot to mention that I'm not talking about Tiberius Caesar, which is the Caesar that is found on the coin Jesus was holding. But instead, I'm comparing Trump to Julius Caesar because he's often viewed as the military tyrant that started the Caesar lineage. Anyways, please like and subscribe and enjoy the rest of the video. Caesar was a great general that helped strengthen the Roman Empire in those times. He used propaganda against his opponents and military might to rise into power as a dictator, a position that was used in those times only during a crisis within the Roman Empire. Now, similarly, Trump used propaganda to rise into his second term of his presidency. And although he is no dictator per se, he is using his military in order to strengthen the image of the United States.
After he and his team watched the operation unfold overnight, President Trump announced the operation was not only about regime change.
We are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
And he's using the presidency at its full potential in order to make America great again. He doesn't ask for permission when deploying the National Guard. And he definitely doesn't apologize to his political opponents. In fact, he uses propaganda in order to make them look more as the enemy. Now, I found this article published by PBS about how a dictatorship worked in the Roman Empire. And I find it so fascinating, the similarities between how back in the day things worked and how maybe not in a very exact way, but things very similarly are playing out in modern times here inside of the United States. So let me just read this one passage right here where it says, "Caesar reveals he has no intention of restoring the Senate's full authority. Instead, he makes the case for elevating himself to the role of a dictator, a position within the Roman system of government that is utilized only during a time of extreme crisis and held for a maximum of 6 months." And we can read on, and it says, "This position of dictator contrasts with the standard two-consul rule, where two politicians are elected by legislative assemblies. Instead, a dictator is granted greater centralized power in the hopes that he is able to address the gamut of pressing issues more effectively." And we're seeing kind of the same things happen within the Republican Party. The Democrats have done an immense amount of damage. So in order to fix that damage, we need to have full control of the House and the Senate. And that's kind of what they've done. Desperate times call for desperate measures. America is so broken by the Democratic Party. America is now in shambles because of sleepy Joe Biden that now we have to fix it. And how do we fix it? We need to break some rules in order to make things right again. But nevertheless, Trump rejects his kingship title.
By the way, I'm not a king. I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is.
But remember what he expressed during his election.
For hardworking Americans, November 5th will be our new Liberation Day, but for the liars and cheaters and fraudsters and censors and imposters who have commandeered our government, it will be their Judgment Day. Their Judgment Day.
So maybe he's not technically a king, obviously. He's a president with limited power. But as president of the United States, he can still stretch the limits of his power in order to enforce laws and declare war just as a king would do. In the Bible, kings are no different than emperors or presidents because a beast in the book of Revelation is a political power. Now, I've heard time and time again, many Christians believe that America is not in Bible prophecy. But if we look at the vision that God gave Daniel in a dream of the statue of King Nebuchadnezzar, we see how God names every single empire that rose and fell. Now, side note, if you don't believe that the Bible is true, this what I'm about to tell you should seal the deal right here, right now. We see a head of gold, and that's Babylon. The breastplate of silver represents the Medes and the Persians. The thighs of brass represent Greece. The legs of iron represent Rome. And the feet of iron and clay represent modern day Europe, from which the nations will never mix again. And what is the strongest political power that was born in that era of iron and clay? That would be the United States of America.
And I'm proud to be an American.
And there's no doubt about it. America is in Bible prophecy because America has been guided by the hand of God for the fulfillment of the end times. I mean, literally, there's a painting that depicts the manifest destiny of the United States, where an angel is seen guiding Americans west for the conquering of the land from coast to coast. Its fate, its destiny, it's written in stone. It's written by the hand of God. America was born as a Christian nation, and the enemy will use that in order to persecute Christians in the future. The problem is that this Christian nation is kind of lost right now. Confusion wraps the heads of believers all across America. These things aren't just a coincidence, it's fate. God allowed the expansion of the United States from coast to coast and rise as the world's dominant superpower in order to make way for prophecy that we find in the book of Revelation. But anyways, throughout the entire Bible, the enemy has always tried to thwart God's plans by using political force. King Herod in the Bible tries to kill Jesus as a baby by killing every male firstborn in Bethlehem. That's pretty sick if you ask me. But what did he use in order to achieve that? Political power. What did the enemy use to try to destroy the Son of God? Political power. And we read that in Matthew 2:16. Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, he was exceedingly angry, and he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its districts, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise men. So, why am I bringing this up? Bible revelation tells us that there will be two beasts that rise up and will unite in the end times. On the left side, you have one beast system, speaking blasphemy, saying, oh yeah, and by the way, I represent Jesus. So whatever I do or say goes. So everyone's going to heaven. And on the other side, we see a system that looks like a lamb, but it's starting to speak as a dragon. These past couple of weeks, we have heard President Trump saying that America needs to go back as a Christian nation.
We will protect the Judeo-Christian principles of our founding, and we will protect them with vigor. We have to bring back religion in America, bring it back stronger than ever before as our country grows stronger and stronger.
And his vice president, J.D. Vance, is saying that church and state, or the unity of church and state, should be encouraged. What we are seeing in modern times is a political system that wants America to look like a righteous and holy nation. But eventually it will speak as a dragon as we approach the end times. Revelation 13:11 tells us, then I saw another beast coming up from out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. Do not be deceived. America was brought up as a Christian nation, and it looks like a lamb, but soon it will start speaking as a dragon as we enter the next phase of the end times. The enemy will use political power in order to persecute Christians. And that's just not me saying it. It's in the Bible. Pick up your Bibles, read it, study it for yourselves. Read other books on these topics, because right now is not the time to be sleeping. It's the time to be awake, learning, deciphering the enemy's tactics. Because what the enemy wants to do right now is dart our eyes away from the focus of the end times, the focus of what exactly he's trying to do. And it's really not that hard to believe that the enemy wants to take control over this religious movement in America. The enemy will not just sit and watch as America becomes a Christian nation. No, that's why Charlie Kirk was assassinated. That's why America is being distracted by things in the Middle East. We are literally letting Satan and his army push this antichrist agenda further into fruition. The enemy is working overtime to spread his deception through political propaganda and religiosity. Guys, it's time to wake up. It's no coincidence that Isaiah 48 talks about King Cyrus, and Trump just so happens to be the 48th president of the United States. Like Trump or not, God is using him as a driving force that will take modern Christians into the end times. Now, the real question is, are you ready to stand your ground and defend your faith? Be blessed, be encouraged in Jesus' name.